we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Welcome back, everyone, to another After Practice podcast episode, so to speak. I mean, we're here at Washington Football Team Training Camp, and as you see, joining me is a person who really needs no introduction if you're a sports fan in the Greater Washington metropolitan area, Mr. Rick Snider from Rick Snider's Washington. You know, you can check out some great episodes on YouTube, so we'll talk about that shortly. But this is a guy that's seen a lot of different teams here for this football team. And, you know, he's been around for the heyday, back when they were winning Super Bowls. And he's been around recently as long as I've been here, where I haven't seen any of that. So what's the tempo of this training camp like to you?
You know, I think they finally hit on the right coach and the right system. Mm-hmm. You know, Club J, I like Jay personally, but his practices were a joke. Yeah. And, you know, good, hard coaches usually have winners. I mean, Marty Schottenheimer, he had the hardest camp you'd ever see in your life. They don't even allow him to do things now. They used to do 2 full pads a day, every day. Yeah. Bull in the ring. Only time I ever saw that.
Ron Rivera was just talking about that. Yeah. He just said the young guys have no idea what it's like, what he had to go through when he played with the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, bull in the ring is somebody's getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know, they used to do it. That doesn't mean that you're going to be great. Marty had the hardest camp you ever saw, started 0-5, you know. Jay, you know, Jim Zorn with Z screens and stuff started 6-3. I mean, so you never know what's going to happen. But usually the best teams are the grinders who were used to the hard times. So when you get into November, December, they can dig down and not give up on you.
Right. I mean, so, you know, right now this is a team that has a lot of aspirations. Last year they won the division. They were only 7-9. A lot of people say, you know, you can only go but up from that point. I think the division's going to be better. But what are you looking for this team for this year?
It's the stepping stone to next year, when I think next year they could be a Super Bowl contender. And maybe this year, if you stay healthy, if their quarterback plays well. I mean, this is a Super Bowl defense. Maybe they need one more year to get together, but this is a Super Bowl kind of defense. Now, can the offense pull all these different pieces together? That may take a year, and I don't know who's quarterbacking that past that.
Sure.
But I like their chances a lot. They've grown exponentially, and as they always say, I learned this from first coaches I ever was with. You can't go from the doghouse to the penthouse in one bite. You just can't. And this is the second time to the third. And after the NFL, 3-year plans are all you get.
Well, you know, the thing that's amazing is the turnover on the team. I mean, you know, Felix Trammell, who's going to come on shortly after Rick, who's joining us right now, Rick Snider. You know, we talked about how there's literally like 9 holdovers from the Jay Gruden days. And, I mean, those are, you know, good players. But at the end of the day, you bring in a new coach, new coaching staff, new organization. You want to make changes. And this roster went from being old and overpriced to now young, and you have flexibility with your cap.
And the great part is their depth is so much better than it used to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, they used to not always have enough ones. Now they have 2s that can be 1s, even an occasional 3 that's going to be a nice player. And that depth will serve you well during the season, because you don't know how many guys you're going to go through. You know, you talk about quarterbacks. They played 4 quarterbacks each of the last 2 years. So you got to keep Montez, you know, involved. You don't know.
I mean, he's looked good. He's actually made some plays. Coach Rivera talked about that too. That, you know, he's a young guy that he doesn't want to have to, you know, make the perfect play all the time. Just make the right play. But yeah, I agree with you, Rick. I think when you look at this team, there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made. And isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah.
Good teams normally go through this.
Yeah, because, I mean, fans often say, well, we couldn't get rid of this guy. You were 3-13 with that guy. You can get rid of him. You know, this year, receiver, man, I'd hate to be in the receiver room, because they're going to let 2 or 3 guys that will find jobs elsewhere.
Oh, no, there are going to be 2 or 3 guys are going to get picked up instantly, so there's no stashing them on the practice squad. As you know, there could be an infamous, you know, injury that comes up, that surfaces or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that Samuel guy still hasn't quite figured out that groin yet. So you put him on there and keep another guy.
Absolutely. That's how you stash guys. But these are the type of problems that you want. You know, you want to be able to be in a situation where you have talent across the board. We know about the defense, and as you mentioned, the offense is going to be the wild card for this team, how far they're going to go, the quarterback play. But from what you've seen so far from the offense, do you think it's sustainable? Do you think that the offense do they have enough pieces right now to win some games where they don't have to rely on the defense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, August is always the month of optimism, and you get beat out of you in September. But I don't see any holes. They've got a tight end that can make plays. They've got a couple running backs that can do different things. It really comes down to the quarterback.
Yeah,
Are you going to? I haven't loved everything I've seen, but I've watched it get better during camp. But he's going to be. He's got a reputation for what it is. I think maybe, though, you can sneak out a year. I mean, look what they did last year with Alex.
Yeah.
You squeezed that year, got to the playoffs. That can happen again. And they don't have any obvious thing where I say, man, they so need this guy.
Right.
They don't have that problem this year.
What's your thoughts on Taylor Heineke? Do you feel like he could be a guy that has a chance to?
Yeah, my biggest concern with him would just be durability. And not that he's a 98-pound weakling, but he runs a lot in places where you can get hurt.
Yeah.
And I think he's a good spot starter. I don't see them going one quarterback 17 games. Because not after 4 of each of the last 2.
Right.
Heineke's going to get a chance to play. He throws a good frozen rope. You kind of need to take something off his fastball because he's like the jugs machine, man. You're standing a foot away. He's kind of throws that ball too hard. He's got to learn a little bit of that. He's got to learn a little finesse, which I think Fitzpatrick has shown me a lot of finesse passes.
Yeah.
When you got a defender beat, now you can throw it over him. That's Heineke hasn't quite shown me that yet. But he's smart. He knows the plays. He just needs experience.
All right. Well, look, folks talking with Rick Snider, longtime Washington football team beat reporter. I mean, he's been everywhere. We talked about some of the papers, former papers. Those papers don't even exist anymore. So he's been around. He's seen it all. I got to ask you this, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot because Coach Rivera is less than 10 feet away from you right now. So the question is, as far as all the coaches you've seen come through here, outside of Gibbs, has this been the most tightly run ship you've seen?
This and Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
Would be the two. I mean, Norv had to learn to be a head coach. He got there, but it took a long time. Zorn, I couldn't notice what was going on there at times. That was
He's
three
supposed to be the
shots
offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he was 3 shades of crazy.
Right,
he's talking about skinning wolves after practice and stuff. I mean, he was a fun guy to talk to. Spurrier was his skill sets did not transcend to the pros.
No.
He's using his imaginary golf club doing swings during special teams. I mean, that kind of thing. And Gibbs 2 wasn't as good as Gibbs 1. Shanny was a narcissist who undermined himself with so many rules, and he didn't relate to players well. This is the guy. I mean, he's a former player, which they love. He's not going to beat him up, but he demands what he has. He has very organized practices. There's no downtime, no messing around.
Yep.
People run between practices. I like watching that because it shows me his players are buying into it. Last year he had the worst of circumstances with the cancer situation, fought through it, showed me a lot. And the question I have to coaches is, you can take a bad team to good. That's the easier thing. Now, can you take a good team to great? That's the harder thing. He has done that. He's been to a Super Bowl. So I think he has the plan that can get them from B to C.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's the right person for this job and to take this organization into a new way of doing business. I mean, it is so professional, just from the standpoint of, Felix and myself were talking about today, just the way the guys, when they put their helmets down, they're perfectly aligned. I mean, it's just, it's so regimented, and that's what you want. I mean, attention to detail, no wasted energy out there. Everyone has a purpose on the practice field, and we hope this translates. So before we wrap this up with Rick Snider, put you on the spot again. It's a little early to be talking predictions, but what are you looking for? What do you see from this team this year?
Tough schedule. I'm thinking 10-7. Which could win the division.
Absolutely.
I would say that's possible. I think if they can get out decently, that'll help because the middle schedule is real, tough on these kind of things.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of teams that did well here that grew come November to December. You just got to stay, in contention by Halloween and then keep pressing it. That's what they did last year.
Yeah.
And that's usually your best team because now you have momentum going in. I've seen teams that start out so well and then fell apart. And they didn't have anything left for the playoffs and all that, But Gibbs was good about that. I mean, Gibbs kept everybody, straight the whole time. You need a tough taskmaster as a coach, not to really give him a little freedom, especially in today's world. You have to, but you can't let him off the leash completely. And with this COVID thing, he's managed to keep everybody focused. on there. So I've been around since '83.
Wow.
I was thinking about retiring, but I kind of want to see another Super Bowl,
Of course,
So maybe I
of
stick
course.
around a little longer. I was around 2 of them. Life was good.
Well,
around here.
the thing is that you know what a Super Bowl contender looks like,
And this team has
you
it.
can see the trajectory of this team, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back at the old Redskins Super Bowl teams, you look at individuals who were so great and kind of monstrously big at times and all. Jacoby, Dexter was in there. Art Monk wasn't freakishly big, but the dude was built right. Riggo. I mean, you had these guys who were big individuals, and they have not had that here. I mean, this year you look at it, you got Chase Young, you got Montez Sweat, you got Terry McLaurin. Just to start, you've got 2 good defenders in the corners. I mean, you have guys that could play on those old Redskin teams.
Okay.
So I think they're gonna grow. They need a little more. Jasmine Davis, he's gonna be good in the middle too.
Yeah, absolutely.
This team has the kind of playmakers that the old team did.
Yeah. So now it just translate on the field, and we'll see what happens. So before we go, I'm going to let you plug your many different ways for people to follow your work. I mean, this is one of the guys here. I appreciate him coming on as well. But let them know where they can find.
Oh, you can find me on Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube. It's a 2-minute show. I'm also on Twitter, it's Snyder_remarks. And I do 2 minutes of several times a day about different topics. And I even do history a lot because I'm a tour guide locally, so I do that. Take you around to see Lincoln, stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
nice.
YouTube and Twitter are my biggest things. And 106.7 The Fan, I write for them also, among others.
All right, folks. So look, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to bring in a good friend of mine who was on the last episode with me, Felix Trammell, from Fox Sports Radio. So hang tight. We'll be right back. After Practice Podcast. I appreciate Rick Snider for joining us the past segment. He's a historian and has covered this team for a long time. Now I'm bringing in a good friend of mine who was on the last episode, did a great job breaking down what we're seeing out here at training camp. And he's with me again, my good friend, Mr. Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio. So what's going on?
How you doing, man?
I'm
Glad
good.
to be here.
I'm good. A couple of days before first preseason game. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot to expect. I think more people are probably more excited to see what Mac Jones does.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're seeing a young team battling out here every day. They're getting better after each practice. And for my money, we talked about it with Rick as well, there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made.
I mean, it's at multiple positions. I mean, he's spoken on wide receiver, which is absolutely loaded. Cornerback, too. I mean, and I think that's a great problem to have, that it shows your depth that quality guys who contributed last year on a good team may not make this roster.
Might be on the fence. Exactly.
And people have to understand that, get attached to sentimental favorites and names that we're like, oh, they're definitely on the roster. I don't think there's many lots as people think there is.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, we're at a point now where you knew every year who was going to make it. I mean, there were guys who weren't even practicing. You knew they were going to make it.
Right.
That's not the situation here. I think you're having to earn your keep out here. I mean, there's young guys like Antonio Gandy Golden, I'm sorry, and then you have Kelvin Harmon, 2 receivers that are having outstanding camps.
I mean, just neck and neck.
Yes. Yeah.
One makes a play, the next one comes out and makes another play. They're hustling on special teams, making plays. I mean, it's down the roster that where you're just like, well, maybe they keep this guy, but then this guy's here. Then it's a lot of decisions that Coach Rivera and that staff are going to have to make.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Sims Jr., a guy that before camp started, people were like, oh, they brought in Humphreys. Steven Simpson had some muffs, some things like that last year, so he's on the outs. To me, he's having one of the top 2 or 3 camps, period.
I mean, he's a home run getter. And, there are guys who get singles and doubles, and that's what Humphreys is. He's consistent, runs good routes. It's going to be that singles, doubles guy.
Yeah.
Sims is a home run guy.
Yeah.
And he's making plays all over, and people are more focused on the punt return aspect of Steven Sims and not the receiver aspect. He even had good games at receiver last year with the inconsistent quarterback play. So he's definitely in play for this roster, and he does a lot of different things well.
Folks, right now I'm joined by Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio, 1340 Fox Sports Radio to be exact. Just wanted to let everyone know also tomorrow on Tuesday, I'll be in D.C. back at Stop Smackin' Sports Lounge or Lounge. It's just a really nice lounge. But we actually do our broadcast from the rooftop next door at the top of the condo that's there. So it's a really, really nice vibe. I encourage you to come on out if you can. We're breaking this team down. No players coming out right now because of training camp. We're not allowed to do that, but we still have other athletes come through, other celebrity guests come through. Last week, I had a good friend of mine, Miss Sasha Perea. Miss DC came out. I had a lot of folks that cover this team, from other outlets, Karita Parks, Rolea Keenso, Candy Wall, Donna Hopkins. They were all over there. Had a former, you should know who this guy is. We had Eric Green came out as well. Former Virginia Tech basketball player who led the nation in scoring in 2012-13.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so had him on as well, and then had Rio Robinson and his crew on. So appreciated them for coming on out, and I think this gentleman's coming out tomorrow. He's going to try to come out.
Yeah.
So we'll have him on there. I understand, sometimes when you got some house things to take care of, but when we get it in, we have a good time. So again, folks, if you can remember to come on out, it's going to be every Tuesday for the year. So just come on out. We have a great time with it. So back here, when I had Rick on, I kind of put him on the spot as far as expectations. What's your expectations of this football team? I mean, we haven't played the first preseason game, but you can sense something out here now that they're working in the right direction.
It's trending up, and like you spoke on it with Rick, how professional everything's clean. Like the first thing special team walked through before practice started, they were practicing coming on the field. I mean, it's little things like that.
Little nuance.
They're calling teams out first kickoff, second kickoff, first punt return, and they're practicing that. So the attention to detail is showing there's a product and a mindset that the whole organization has. So I expect this team to be better than last year. I mean, you're more talented, you're deeper. If you get just 70% quarterback play. We don't need all world quarterback play.
Yeah.
We just need good, consistent quarterback play. This team can easily win the division.
Yeah.
I mean, I think winning the division again, which is something that hasn't happened since 2005?
Yeah, 16 seasons.
Yeah, it was the Eagles who went back to back.
Yep.
So if they can pull that off, that shows a trending process that none of the other teams in this division can say.
Yeah.
So I think that's my expectation is the division. Now the playoffs are a whole another world, but I do expect the division title.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number that floats around out here, Rick just talked about it before, is like 10 wins. I actually have them at 11-6 this year, and that's getting, again, that's having one quarterback play for 17 games. Is that going to happen? I think the over and under on that's going to be severely under.
Right. I think you definitely have more than one. But at 10, 11 wins, it's not off the table, even with the schedule they have.
I mean, you go back to last year. Alex Smith was, 5-1 as a starter, 5-0 as a starter. And then you go back to the Dwayne Haskins situation, just the uneven play there. You go back and take all those games, and if you had the same quarterback under center, there's no reason for me to believe that this team wouldn't have reeled off 3 more wins.
Yeah,
I mean, they were right there.
They were easily 9-17.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think of the 2 games at the end of the year, the Carolina and Seattle games.
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head, that's 9-7. That I think a lot of people would see 9-7 and be like, okay, they're on the way, versus 7-9, and like.
Well, the Giants game up in New York, Robert.
Went for 2.
Went for 2 at the end of the game. So you could easily kick the extra points in that game into overtime. You had all the momentum in the world.
Right.
Probably would have won that game, but he wanted them to learn how to win. That's what he told us. So, that team was close to getting 9-10 wins last year. Yeah. There's no reason for you to think that they're not going to get to that point this year. And again, 10 wins in the NFC East probably is going to get the job done.
I think
it's going to be right there, so to speak.
It's not. This is not going to be the AFC North where you're going to have to get 12-13.
No,
it's not. It's not going to be the NFC West where you're going to have, or the NFC South
13 with Tampa.
With Tampa, the NFC West, you're going to have to get to about 11, 12, well, at least 12, maybe 13 to get out there. So 10 would get you this division. I don't see. Other teams are either Eagles are a couple years away. Mm-hmm. Giants are kind of spinning wheels, and the Cowboys, for what they have, that's great. They got a lot of holes as well, so it's going to be interesting to see that.
Well, I think for my money, I think the Giants are the legitimate threat.
Yeah,
I do. I think Joe Judge has done a really good job there in his first year last year. He's put his thumb on that team. Defensively, they were already really good last year. They should be better. And then they brought in some pieces, Kadarius Toney from Florida, You went out and you got
Kenny
Galladay from Detroit. Saquon Barkley comes back, and you already know. Whenever I mention somebody from my school, I got to say we are. So you already know. but yeah, I think the Giants are going to be a much better football team as well. How does that translate? They won 6 games last year,
right?
Right there.
They were competitive in a lot of games too because they're built similarly to us. They built defense first. We have the better line. They had the better kind of all around defense.
Sure,
but they're built the same, so that defense will keep you competitive in a lot of games. So the Giants will be right there, but that's the team we see first. Well, second in the season, but we
on out of the division
we see them first
on a Thursday.
So
yeah, first two home games are going to be just massive as far as where it can springboard this team to.
Right.
You definitely don't want to be in the hole after your first 2 games at home and then have to go on the road. And then, of course, we know how the season ends with those 5 divisional games, which is unheard of.
That is wild to me. A 17-game season and you backload all those division games.
So it's probably going to come down to the last 5 weeks of the season, pretty much. But they've got a tough schedule. But I say this all the time. Everyone talks about schedule strength in the league. I mean, every team has a tough schedule. It's the NFL.
It's the NFL.
And if you just sleep on 1 week, you're going to lose. So it doesn't matter who they're playing. They've got to come out and play an A game in order to get a W. I think this is a team, though, that's trending upward. The trajectory of this team is where it should be at this point in the second season. Naturally, it all falls on quarterback play. If it's Fitzpatrick, if it's Heineke, we'll see how all this stuff pans out. But listen, we got to take a break. And tomorrow, remember, though, check us out down in D.C. We'll be on live on set. Looking forward to it. You got to come out.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
All right. So real quick, I'm going to let Felix plug where you can check out his great work, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, you can find me on 1340 AM Fox Sports, Hopewell, Richmond. That's who I write for. Also on the Washington Rap podcast. Check us out there. We're on all the podcast sites. 10-minute show. Listen to us getting ready for work or getting ready for whatever you want to do. So you follow us there. Listen to us there as well.
Folks, check them out. A good friend of mine doing some really good stuff. So we'll take a break and we come back more after practice.